Good morning. Thank you for taking this hour with me. I'm Michelle Munson, CEO of Aspera. This morning I have the pleasure to introduce to all of you partners of IBM a new offering from Aspera, Aspera Files, a SaaS enabling large data sharing and collaboration in hybrid cloud environments. We're very excited to present Files because it really represents a new era of offering from Aspera, and we think captures some of the fundamental needs of businesses around large data collaboration and sharing in varied cloud and on-premise environments. Over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to overview Files for you. I'll explain the problems that it solves fundamentally, introduce the core Aspera technology that underpins it, and then give you a demonstration of the capabilities. Then I'm going to wrap up with a description of the offering and how, as partners of IBM, you can bring it to your clients, starting with evaluations and also moving into describing the commercial offering. So let's start at the top with what exactly a person can do with Aspera Files. As a SaaS offering, Files brings Aspera's very well-known high-speed transport technology, Aspera Fast, hopefully to businesses en masse in an easy way that allows for sharing and sending large gigabyte files and sets of files or massive terabyte data sets over wide area networks. And the approach in Files allows users to do that with the capabilities of fast speed over long distance, which allows for dramatically faster transfer speeds regardless of where the content is stored. And also, most importantly, Files allows the user to do that from any third-party cloud or built-in infrastructure provided in Files or from on-premise Aspera servers, combining together a truly open hybrid cloud approach. And then lastly, Files also enable secure and, if you will, very precise access control to valuable content that's stored in the Files environment and builds upon Aspera's end-to-end encryption with a new overlay for access control and permissioning that overlays all of the cloud storage environments that Files supports. So with that in mind, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our company, Aspera, and how our core technology really enables this kind of offering in a unique way. We, Aspera, specialize in creating software-based solutions for data transfer problems. And in particular, we have built the FAST protocol, which is an innovative bulk data transfer protocol that allows for moving bulk data, files, directories of files, and now data feeds, data streams over wide area networks with maximum speed and efficiency. And the properties of FAST allow it to do that without degradation, regardless of how far the transfer goes or how difficult the networks are. Our company was acquired by IBM Software 2 years ago and is part of the IBM Cloud division. And we brought Files to market with the core Files running on the IBM Software Cloud with support, as you will see today, for direct transfer in and out of all public clouds, Amazon, Azure, Google, etc., as well as support for on-premise traditional storage and scale-out object storage. Our team is headquartered here in Emeryville, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we provide support to all of our customers throughout the world. The markets that we serve are dealing in large data as a critical transfer need. In some of those where you might have learned of Aspera in the past include media and entertainment. Aspera has been awarded 2 engineering Emmys or the impact that SaaS has had on digital transfer of video data and other rich media over IP networks. Also, our software is used widely in the federal government and intelligence, healthcare, and other agencies dealing in with large data sets. Engineering companies that need to build files, for example, over long distance, or design in 3D, CAD, and architecture drawings. Life sciences for the transfer of genomics data and molecular models. Software and gaming for the movement of game files, and software is used by all of the major game providers, as well as OTT, video OTT services, and broadcasters and entertainment and gaming. And as we look to other industries such as oil and gas and enterprise IT, advertising and publishing, legal and e-discovery, we have customers in all of these markets, around 3,000 business customers today. And they have traditionally relied on our software running on-premise or running on demand in third-party cloud environments. Files brings our first complete SaaS offering to market, and hopefully enables customers of yours in all of these industries to solve their large data transfer problems in a very easy and immediately accessible way. Our core technology, Aspera Fast, really changes the nature of large data transfer, and the most salient characteristic of it is that the performance is independent of distance, which means that data transfer, which is typically thought of as fast if it's in the local area, but slow if it's over the long-haul network, is truly changed to be fast at any distance. And the reason for that is the core efficiency of the Aspera Fast protocol. Fast is fully reliable when it transfers data, so it is used widely for file transfer, transfer of sets of files and data, and movement of data in and out of cloud and other storage environments. If you take a look at the difference from legacy approaches to file and data transfer, you'll quickly see the dramatic difference. The fundamental problem with existing TCP-based transfer technologies, that would be web-based uploads and downloads with HTTP in the browser, FTP or SFTP at the desktop, a Windows copy, for example, an rsync, more or less any kind of reliable data transfer we're accustomed to today. All of these rely on the TCP transport technology, which has a well-known bottleneck in speed over distance. So as you go farther and farther in the transfer, the realizable speed collapses. And that's due to several factors around the core TCP, the most limiting of which is what we call the TCP flow control. And this is a fact of life, not something that can be changed in the way that file transfer and data transfer is done. Aspera Fast, in contrast, provides a new way of achieving reliable transport on IP networks. It's an application software, and you can see that the key breakthrough is that regardless of distance, the transfer times are consistent. Furthermore, they use full available bandwidth, and as you add more bandwidth, the transfer times scale up to use the bandwidth and fall linearly. And this is highly predictable and consistent, independent of how far you go or how difficult the networks are. And by difficulty, I mean specifically how much latency or packet loss. And this breakthrough has allowed whole industries to change from being able to move, not being able to do network transfer or shipping physical media, to now being able to move large data sets. And I use the illustration of a 10-gigabyte file in very fast rates. And many of you who enjoy online video appreciate this every day because the large majority of video assets that are distributed through cable providers and services like Netflix and Amazon, for example, are all ingested with Aspera software in order to create these very fast turnaround times in the back-end pipelines. The other thing that's quite important about the fast technology is that it continues to scale up. even as data sizes get larger and as numbers of files grow and as distances or numbers of transfers grow. And this gives it a great deal of flexibility as an underlying transfer engine in our software, and you'll see it at work in Files today. So this brings me to the motivation for creating Aspera Files. I think this is extremely important to pause and understand, because today there are many file sharing services on the market. There are the popularized consumer and prosumer services of Dropbox or Box, for example. There are free services offered through Microsoft and Google, such as OneDrive and Google Drive, and Apple's cloud, iCloud-based file sharing and synchronization. And then there are many second-tier and smaller solutions. There is, however, a fundamental set of problems with all of these solutions around what we would consider the large and unstructured data that's growing in business today. And those I highlight here and want to explain in some detail. The first problem with every one of these services is they are built on top of the TCP transport, and they utilize their own or a dedicated storage environment. And together, that means that the sharing of large files or large numbers of files is simply not practical. Firstly, large file sets will fail in transfer, and secondly, those that do succeed are too slow in the large majority of cases to be shared in these environments. You notice that they all advertise their file sharing in sync for documents, because documents are small and easy to move and store. The second issue that plagues all of these services is the matter of distance. Because they're cloud environments, and because you have to get the data in and out of their environments, you're inherently having to move it over a wide area network that's slow and unreliable, as we discussed. The other problem is that it constantly requires getting the data in and out. There is no such thing as being able to transfer directly from where the data is stored. And then secondly, there is no such thing as being able to move data at line speed. As far as the security model goes, all of these solutions offer some kind of encryption, at least at the first tier. But the fundamental challenge that remains is the matter of access control. The data does have to be stored in the storage environment that the provider offers, and many of them nowadays are even having to build even deeper storage environments of their own. You're expected to put your data in. The security is limited by the storage and transfer capabilities going in and out. And then the access control, of course, applies only in that environment. So again, if you've invested into a third-party cloud environment, such as Azure or Amazon or Google or software, you're left with, or you have data stored locally, the access control only applies once your content is into that environment. And then moving on down, because of the fact that these are bespoke solutions that are not flexible, they typically have one kind of sharing option that allows users to do only that way of making data available, and such as syncing or sending to another person. We think the world has changed. It has to be vastly more flexible for ingest, distribution, person-to-person sharing, and synchronization. And then at the final point, any audit of events that take place and users sharing content or making it available to one another is limited to the features of the environment of these providers. Whereas you'll see in Files that end-to-end all activities around all content are available to be consumed and observed independent of the storage platform, independent of file content, or what users do. So in this way, Files breaks all of these barriers, and it starts fundamentally with the performance and, if you will, breakthrough of the fast technology. But even more importantly, it builds upon this with tremendous simplicity. And you'll see in a moment that users can simply onboard, have an organization URL, and be able to share content immediately, regardless of size and distance. They can also connect in, and this is where the infrastructure becomes so flexible and unique. They can share in storage that is on third-party cloud environments or on-premise using Aspera On Demand, which provides direct native transfer in and out of these environments. And then lastly, the security is end-to-end. So all organization interaction with the storage is done in a secure multi-tenant manner, and then users also can be entirely managed within the organization with secure and private project access. The components of files start with a user experience that's entirely within the browser, which makes it very convenient. And you'll see in a moment that users can organize content into workspaces that are then branded for a project and contain individual user communities, as well as the content that's going to be shared among the workspace. And everything that goes on in the workspace is private to it. Underpinning this are built-in transfer nodes and storage that we at Aspera run under the Files platform, and anyone who onboards to Files immediately has access to the built-in transfer capability and storage. And then users may also connect in existing Aspera deployments, which include our server software running on-premise, which means that all file content that might be stored in the enterprise is immediately accessible, browsable, and transferable within Files. And then also Aspera On Demand on third-party clouds, as I mentioned, connects in all of these cloud storage environments directly into the environment. It's very easy to create an access key in those environments and connect them directly in to the organization's Files presence. And this is what it looks like if you look at the architecture. So the user experience is all in the browser. The browser becomes like the user's desktop, and they can see files and folders. However, the location of those files and folders is really flexible to include just on-premise, the Aspera servers and storage. And you'll see that as the default when an organization onboards. Additionally, files and folders that are stored in on-premise Aspera servers, and content that is also stored on third-party clouds. And an organization can mix and match any combination of this within their Files instance. The user's experience then is equal across, so that users can upload and download, share folders, offer packages that can be downloaded comprised of files and directories from any combination of places, offer links to upload into Dropboxes, for example, and move content directly back and forth between these shared storage environments simply by dragging and dropping in the browser interface. And now that brings me to probably the most interesting part of my presentation, which will be the demo of the various capabilities in Files. So let me go out of my presentation and take you over to my browser. So just before I log in, I want to point out a couple of things. I'm going to be using the demonstration Aspera Files instance, which has the URL aspera.asperafiles.com. When a company signs up, it gets its own preferred URL. For example, MLBAM for Major League Baseball Advanced Media Group.asperafiles.com. And then the users in that organization can log in directly. And notice the login can be direct through the Aspera provided OAuth provider, or it can be through Google or other popular OAuth services, so that you can provide for single sign-on. And then once the user logs in, you'll notice that they are made available to any workspace that they're a member of. And my user, Michelle, is a member of the Sales Workspace, the Engineering Workspace, the Boardroom Workspace, and the Sales Engineering Workspace. Each of those has its own private content and user community. I'm going to start my demonstration today in the Sales Workspace. And the first thing I want to point out is this very simple file and folder view. If I take a look at these, the various content, I can see, for example, this media directory, if I look at its information, happens to be stored on a built-in files node, files prod es403.asperafiles.com. Whereas if I take a look at this folder at the top, the AWS content folder, I can see that that is coming off of an AWS cluster of Aspera server software. And notice that if I browse into media, I can browse it just like it was my local file system. And similarly, if I'm interested in browsing my storage directly on the Amazon cloud, I can do that right here, just the same. And then finally, let's take a look at one more cloud environment. This happens to be an Aspera cluster running in a private account and software. Let's take a look at that in DC. And the idea carries on. So now within my files view, one of the most basic things I can do is share this content with another user, and I simply click the sharing option. Sharing makes that directory available in place to the users or groups I share it with. For example, if I want to share this with Luke, I can simply choose Luke's name and give him permissions to download only, or actually overwrite the content in that directory. And once I do this, Luke immediately has permission, and he will see this media directory in his login view. Now, of course, the sharing in place is not the only thing I might want to do. I also have the option to move the content directly. So let's go ahead and do that. Give myself a little more space to navigate. And to move directly, I'm going to split my window, and I'm going to take a look here. Let's say I want to move some content between software and AWS. So I'm going to browse into AWS, and I'm going to browse into software. And let's say I want to move this 10 gig file. So I can just grab it here and transfer. And in this case, my transfer goes directly between those locations. And I can see it taking place in the background. And you'll see that because this is an infrastructure transfer, it'll ramp up and use the available bandwidth between these cloud storage locations. I happen to have about 250 megabits per second to use. So this is taking place very quickly, and I'll move this 10 gig file between these two cloud environments in around 45 seconds, about 20 seconds to go. Okay. And then, of course, I didn't upload or down that. It's just download that file. It's going directly between those locations. Now that's finished. So let's imagine instead of just moving content between locations, I want to send something out to a collaborator. And I can do that in a few different ways within Files. So let's do that starting with sending a package. So inline, I can just choose to send files and now send out a package to my colleague Ajanta or to the entire sales engineering group, for example. I can add some metadata or messaging. And here I can drag files. Now this is the interesting point. Notice that of course I can add some files from my local system, and I'll just pull up a few of these screenshots. But I can also browse over to any one of these locations. So let's start with this media folder, and I can pick let's say this 200 megabyte file right here, which happens to be located on the built-in servers and storage. But let's say I also need to get something from my Amazon archive out. So I can browse in there to my archive location. And there I can pick up a few files locally there. I can pick up any of the, and then if I want to grab something, let's see, let's pull that one over. And then let's go out here. And let's say I also finally want to grab one more piece of content that's coming directly from, say, software. And I can do that too, so I'll grab this file, bring it over to my package. And now I have a package comprised of all of these files and folders. I can choose to have this remain encrypted at rest when I transfer. Go ahead and send. Right. And now what's happening is that all of these particular files are being uploaded from the location of choice. Right? And we've created now a package. You can see all of these individual files and directories coming in. And once those are completed, they're available to the recipients to download directly. They get an email link to download. They can also click to download the entire package. Or, even more interestingly, if they want to, they have, again, an archive need or a need to go directly to one of these storage environments. They can simply choose to do that by browsing directly in and transferring over. And those files, of course, will go direct into this environment. Now, let's imagine instead of sending out to a collaborator that I want to invite someone to send content to me. Notice there's a public invite option here at the top. If I click public invite, I'm immediately offered a set of Dropboxes, and I happen to have set up a particular Dropbox called the Japan campaign. And this Dropbox gives me the ability to invite other parties to send in, either with a public link that can go to all users with an expiration, or with an authenticated link that's sent to a particular recipient. I can choose the expiration for that recipient. I can see all of the links I've created before for other users, change their expirations. In this case, I'm just going to go grab this public link. Let's give it a name. And let's say I want this to expire next week. Now I can just simply copy and paste that link directly into my browser, or email it out to my collaborators, for example, and they get this nice form that invites them to submit in. And their environment is very simple. They fill out this form, and notice that there are metadata options for them to complete. The metadata is customizable in the setup of the Dropbox. So let's do a demo. And now as a collaborator, I can simply add some files or folders directly from my desktop, or even just drag and drop them in. So let's grab something over here. We'll grab this 2 gig file, drop that directly in, and submit this package. And now this is going to be uploading directly from the user's desktop into our environment. Let's take a look at this. So I'm running Aspera Connect. And notice in this case I brought up the Aspera Connect browser plugin. And you can see it integrates natively with the browser for all files users and performs the transfer using Aspera's core technology. And I'm uploading in this case from my office to the files environment. This happens to be mapped directly to the built-in storage. So going over a wide area network. And I should be able to finish this in about 25 seconds. And for the user, as soon as they complete their upload, they're done, and they can walk away. So now we, on the other side, take a look at our situation. So we have incoming packages for this Dropbox, and let's take a look. Here comes this example submission for the 2020 games. That's now complete. Here it is, and I can see what was submitted, the details, and the metadata. In this case, because it's public, it's an anonymous sender. If it's authenticated, it comes directly from that authenticated user, and they're prompted to authenticate under their Files account when they log in. And this model is also very convenient for just sharing direct links into files and folders. So, for example, I can take any one of these. Let's say I want someone to contribute into my software sales directory. I can just click this right here and say, okay, here's the public link, create my link, contribution to software sales. And again, I can make a link expiration if I want. Custom, in this case, I'm going to let it expire in a day. I can make it view only or give it upload permissions. So if I give it upload permissions, and go ahead and save that. Okay, so I'm going to grab that link, and now I'm going to go into here. This is going to give access directly into that upload location for the third party who's using it, and indeed there it does. And by the way, I have upload permissions to upload files and folders directly. And notice, if I am the person managing this, I want to pop back and change permissions. All I have to do is go in here and say, oh, I don't want that user to upload anymore. So all I do is change this to view only. Done with that. Go back in, refresh my link. And now, of course, the user does not have upload permissions anymore. Right? Very convenient for working with these third parties. All right, and then I want to show you a couple more key features and then move into the administration of files and how this is set up. So you'll notice in my browsing view, I've got files of all types. There are a few neat capabilities such as preview of images and video. If I move into this media directory, take a look. I've got a few sample videos in here. Go ahead and both actually play those online. So of course, this is very appropriate for people collaborating with rich media. A lot of our media clients really like the convenience of the built-in preview. You'll see me switch over into a different view now. I'm going to move into the admin area. So let me log in as an admin user. All right, so what's going on behind the scenes to make all this possible? Well, at the very top, we have an organization, of course, and the organization in this case is Aspera, and we happen to be using the built-in OAuth provider to manage our users. Every organization you might find us has their own distinct area and a choice of authorization. Under workspaces, you can see that I have many created, and I can add more at will. Let's take a look at the setup of a workspace. So I've been working out of the sales workspace in my demo today. And you can see that home folders and packages happen to be stored on a particular node. And then in a moment I'll explain this, but there are many shared folders within a workspace. And those shared folders have names, and this is what gives those folders their names in the Files UI. And you can see those can come from any location. And you start to get the hint as to how we make this possible underneath. In the organization of our workspace of sales, we also have drop boxes, and we'll circle back to that. And of course, we have users and groups who are the members of the organization, or excuse me, of the workspace. Now, how do we get here? Well, let's start with this nodes and storage view. You can see that in my organization, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different nodes. And this is a very important concept. It's important for architecture, important for selling. The nodes are the Aspera server software hosts. These are host computers running Aspera server software that enable the transfer capability and the browsing and the access control with storage, be it cloud storage or traditional NAS or SAN or local disk. And for every files organization, anyone who finds that there are built-in servers and storage they can take advantage of right here at the top. Then they can also add additional servers and storage that they might own themselves or that they have access to on third-party clouds. And for illustration, I added another Dallas node, I added a cluster on Amazon, and I added an on-premise node that happens to be inside of our office network, the so-called Liz cluster. And at the bottom, finally, I added one more cluster, which happens to be a private cluster out on a software environment. And our company makes Aspera, makes the software that runs in these environments. On clouds, you can get subscription access to it. It's called Aspera On Demand. And on-premise, you can get licensed software for it, Aspera Enterprise Server, Connect Server, etc., downloadable directly from our website. And I want to hone in on an example. I'm going to use the example of this AWS cluster and show you a little bit about how I have used its content in my sales organization. So let's go into the shared folders area now for sales, and let's add a new shared folder. Notice the first thing I'm prompted to do as an admin is to select where I want that to be located, and I'm going to choose this AWS cluster. Now when I choose select, I'm prompted to enter something called an access key, or the access key secret to be more precise. So what I need to do now is go get my secret, and how do I do that? I can go directly into the Aspera administration interface for the cluster, and I have two clusters running here. These happen to be Amazon clusters. I'm going to pull a cluster called W, and here I can see, I have some access keys, and the access key I've used to connect this cluster into files in this org is this 1G key. And if I go in and look in more detail, I can see this key happens to be mapped directly onto this bucket on Amazon under this account, right? So these are the credentials on Amazon. This is the bucket. All of this is private information. Files knows nothing about it. I just decided to make it available. And what I tell Files then is this access key, the 1G access key, and this particular secret, which is the means Files has to get private multi-tenant access. Let's go back into my window. Let's find the right window for us. Load a few of these up. Let's go here. Admin sales. Go into my shared folders. Add shared folder. Grab this guy. Select and enter that secret. There we go. And now you can see I'm browsing. So what I've done is use the secret to browse into that secure location that the admin made available to me, right? Again, me being the files admin, I don't necessarily need any access to it. And I'm going to come in here and choose a directory that I want to expose out on files. And let's say I want to make a new one. So we'll call this the partner webinar directory. So I just make that directory now. And I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to actually share it with that name. So I'm going to share it as partner webinar. And now I can decide, is it going to be shared with all members of the workspace or just with individual members? And I'm going to give everybody permission to write into it. So I'll do this, and I'll save it. Now, what this does is immediately add a new shared folder to the workspace called Partner Webinar. And because it is available to everyone in the workspace, the entire group, everybody has edit permissions on it. And now, of course, if I go out into the sales area, let's go back out as a user view. I will see browsing within my sales view the new Partner Webinar folder, and indeed there it is. Right? There's nothing in it currently. I can go ahead and upload something. That's going to do the transfer for me. And notice this is going to be uploading directly into this environment. There we go. We've just uploaded directly, and that is actually landed direct on that S3 bucket. Let's pop back into the admin view. So I can do this throughout all of the different workspaces with any of the nodes and any of the content on the nodes simply by creating an access key that maps onto a directory or bucket location on the cloud and adding it into the workspace. And you can also easily see the multi-tenancy that's possible with this. It means that if you are someone who has servers and storage, you can take that and privately slice that among any organizations and among any workspaces within those organizations, right, for storage reuse. And you notice here, and I assume you saw that by workspace, we keep track of the usage by access key in terms of storage use, and same thing by each workspace, and shared items, shared folders within the workspaces. And if I want to see the complete storage use, I can browse in. Otherwise, I can see it within each one of these individual areas. Let's talk about Dropboxes for just a minute. So within my sales workspace, I created several Dropboxes, and I want to draw your attention to the Japan campaign because we used that earlier. Notice I have a very convenient form editor to set up all the metadata that I want to include. I can add fields, text boxes, drop-down choices, single text entry fields, etc. Now here's what's most interesting. I can now make members of my workspace have rights to this Dropbox. And notice that for each user, I can control, and let's take Jason Warman, for example, whether they can submit to the Dropbox, receive from the Dropbox, that means get access to the packages submitted, or invite third parties. And this becomes a very powerful way to let your users in the workspace invite outsiders or not to submit directly in. And notice you can do that by groups or individual users. So one of our Files users supports many professional athletic teams. And each of the teams has a workspace, and within that, each workspace has a Dropbox, and the Dropbox is used for the press to submit in any video content or interviews for that particular team. So the press has access only to the Dropbox. They don't need fully fledged Files accounts, whereas the team coordinators themselves have full accounts, and it makes a very easy way for everyone to work together in a secure collaboration environment. Also want to share with you activities. I think you might remember from my motivating comments that one of the key ideas of Files is that not only do you have the flexibility to move the content around from anywhere, but you can actually trace exactly what's going on in all scenarios. And you'll see I have a very rich activity feed that shows me all the details for any particular transfer or data submission, and this is that last submission I made for the 2 GB file. But going beyond just transfers, I can also filter all of the activity in Files by login events, uploads, downloads, and renames. And let's just do everything. Package sending and receiving, user and group management, workspace management, adding users, Dropbox management, and any server events that we might be interested in. So let's now choose all of these, and I can filter what I'm looking at by workspace. So I'm just going to look at what's been going on in the sales workspace. And here, I'm going to apply this. Right. And now I'm going to get back the event feed for all of the different submissions. So here is what I just sent to Ed Warner. If I go down here, I can see that indeed one of our partners, just did a file upload from Lineup in Brazil, for example. Ajanta just received a package, for example. Right? And if I go back in time, I can see more things going on. Sales engineer Larby just went and did an upload, for example, and this goes on and on. This activity feed is constantly gathered from all nodes, on-premise, cloud, built in, and updated with these events. And it is also available and exposed through our APIs to files. And I did want to take a short time here after I get done with email notifications to show you the API support, because given a platform technology like this, having APIs that others can plug into is obviously very important. Moving into email notifications. So here, I think it's quite straightforward what's going on. The main activities within files have customizable email notifications, very easy to set up the basics, and then these can be customized so that what they say, messages, and branding can all be configured by the admins of the workspaces and also of the organization. So to cap off on my demo, let's go into the API. This website I'm moving into now is Aspera's developer website, developer.asperasoft.com. And here you can see I'm going to first log in with my account, and third parties who subscribe to our SDK get access to this. And under the web section, you'll immediately see a section called Files. The Aspera platform is rich with API support, but Files in particular exposes out all the different things you saw me doing, such as sending packages, managing users and groups, doing uploads and downloads, right? Even doing scripted command line, right, which is very convenient if you want to just do a quick and dirty right-click send with ASCP or transfer binary, and then a little bit of everything here if you want to get the full view of all possibilities. And this is quite rich and important because it means that if you want to take a content management system and send through files or download from files or manage your content in and out, do transfers across environments, you can do it directly using the Files APIs and mix and match existing content management or data management systems with it. Okay, so this concludes my demo. In my last few minutes, we've got about 10 minutes to go in our webinar. I want to talk about the offering. How do you go to market with files, and how can you bring it to your customers? So let me start with back to a full screen view. Files is sold very easily, which in the IBM world might be a breath of fresh air. What's very nice about it is that users can just onboard, or organizations can onboard, with the all-inclusive model, signing up, and they're ready to go. And there is a subscription offering for all-inclusive that is based on gigabytes transfers, and our smallest plan is 100 gigabytes a month. Our biggest standard plan is a petabyte a month, and we have annual plans that range from a terabyte a month up to 12 petabytes a month. So really supports the small organization to the giant organization. And those of you that follow the file sharing services will know at that entry point, we just cross over with the small scale or largest sort of business transfer capabilities of something like a box or a Dropbox, and then we go up in terms of content that can be transferred from there. Notice, however, our price points are very much in line, and so the starting point is $140 a month for the all-inclusive option. And there are a few tiers based on number of workspaces, so super easy. Customer doesn't have to supply anything to get on that. A hybrid model is also possible, and we have nice offerings built out. And I can tell you in our first 2 months of offering this that we have customers on hybrid as well as all-inclusive, the full gamut. In the hybrid offering, the customer can connect in existing Aspera servers that they own on premise, and that's very affordable. There is a subscription offering for connecting a server node, and that starts at $240 a node a month, and there are volume packs for that. So if a company owns 10 Aspera server nodes, they want to connect in and make files and overlay, right? They have the ability to basically connect in their full enterprise at a very economical rate. And then they can also connect in Aspera on-demand subscriptions directly from third-party cloud environments. and we obviously have lots of customers who use Azure and use AWS with Aspera On Demand. All they need to do is make an access key and connect those in. And those plans already offer usage-based approaches from 100 gigabytes a month up to a petabyte a month, and from a terabyte a year up to a petabyte a year. And those plans start at $300 a month for plans like Fastback On Demand and Shares On Demand. So very flexible, and an organization can combine the two. They can have the all-inclusive option and then choose to add hybrid nodes or add their Aspera On Demand subscription. It's a very easy a la carte model, and when you see a quote, just very easily fills out a la carte style. And to get into more details, for the all-inclusive option, there's 3 simple tiers: 1, 10, and 100 workspaces. And the hybrid model is the same: 1, 10, and 100 workspaces. When you get all-inclusive, the storage comes along for the ride, and you get 1, 5, or 10 terabytes of working storage. The other thing that's really nice is you can get additional storage at a very economical rate, 3 cents a gigabyte, which those of you who follow cloud storage know that's a really great rate for online storage. And then down in the hybrid or on-premise models, of course, the customer is supplying their own storage or using the built-in storage with their cloud account. So very convenient to scale this stuff out.